So as a creator, you might not care about what's happening with Intel. I don't have time for another company moan. Like, I don't care what happens with these companies.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
And I don't blame you. But here's the thing. If you're a creator, Intel, especially as a company, really can't fail or shouldn't fail. If you look at the stock of Intel, it's not looking so good. Intel CEO, fired, or what they call retired. Now we've got two CEOs? Well, that's never gonna work, is it? And this is just the ice pick sticking out of the water. The story is a lot bigger. Whether you're an Apple, Nvidia, AMD, or Intel fanboy, here's why Intel can't fail. Licensing Windows is cheap and easy with whokeys.com, and if you use the code TN20, you get an extra discount. Complete the purchase, copy the key, and paste it to the activation settings. And you're all done. Also, check out their Microsoft Office 19 license and use the same code TN20 for the extra discount. Check out whokeys.com in the video description below. Number one thing I want you to understand, I am not biased to Intel. What's annoying to me is that the way certain companies work behind the scenes, some of them are so much easier to work with, and it makes it look like I am preferring one company to the other. For example, you might have seen AMD samples on the channel. They're not giving me samples, but at the same time, AMD is very happy to pay big sponsorships on the channel.
If you want the shots, I'll take the staff job. Double the money.
Intel has never sponsored a video on the channel. They did like combination of a laptop ages ago. I've never got any money from Intel, but they're very helpful providing all the samples to say, just, try it out. Let us know what you think, which is the way to go these days. If you're thinking I'm preferring Intel, it's actually AMD's fault. Because if you look at a little bit of my history on the channel, I used to tell you always that AMD's better. But I just received a very special box from Intel, which we're gonna open it now. You've got to understand what's going on with the companies right now. Everybody is in the CPU and the GPU race. If your company produced CPUs only, then you're gonna want to get onto the GPU train. And if your company was only producing GPUs, then now you want to get onto the CPU train as well, because you need both of these arms. Now look at Apple. Apple used to have Intel CPUs, AMD GPUs, and then before that, Nvidia GPUs, but now they've come to their own thing and they're producing their own CPUs and GPUs. Even though they're on the same package, they're manufacturing both themselves. If you look at Nvidia, they've always produced GPUs, but now they're also expanding into making CPUs. AMD has always kind of had both the GPUs and CPUs, and Intel has always had the CPUs, but not so much of the dedicated big GPUs. Yes, they have had integrated graphics on mobile and on desktop, but never a dedicated GPU, which should actually give away what's happening in this box. Look at that. This is my first Intel Arc card that's limited edition, or their Founders Edition, basically cards. This is the new Battle Mage Arc B580. I'm gonna leave it below if you wanna check it out, but I'm gonna test it in a minute and put it against AMD and Nvidia. Thank you for choosing Intel Arc B series graphics for the next chapter in your hardware. Seems like you can get something cut out from here. Oh, create your own Intel Arc GPU. Hilarious. Literally, you can make your own Intel Arc GPU. And we've got stickers as well. And then, oh, look at that. This is a nice microfiber cloth. And look at this GPU. It's matte black, which is very interesting, which means this is going to be such a fingerprint magnet. I'm going to try to get it out without getting any fingerprints on it. This is going to be a big fingerprint magnet. So we've got Intel Arc on the back here. There is a bit of a blow through. Everything is black, matte black, which is really, really cool. You've got one 8-pin PCIe connector. Looks like this Intel Arc lights up. I'm assuming blue. If it's any other color, I'd be probably disappointed. We have two fans. They look pretty good quality fans. And then if we look at this in the back here, we've got 3 display ports and then 1 HDMI port as video outputs. You might be asking, why is Intel entering these GPUs into the lower end of the market? If they really wanted to compete with NVIDIA and AMD, why don't they actually compete with, 4080s or the high-end GPUs? Actually, this is a very smart move from Intel, because if you're a new guy to the race, you wanna get as much of the market share as possible. And if you look at the actual statistics, most people are not running 4090s, 4080s, 4070s even, but maybe 4060s and low end of the GPUs. So you wanna introduce as many of your products to the market as possible, because then you're gonna have the developers trying to develop and make drivers that are optimized for your GPU, because you've got more and more GPUs in the actual market. So entering into the lower end, what Intel's doing here, and trying to be the best price to performance competitor at the lower end, that is a smart move to actually gain more and more market share of the GPUs. But why is Intel different than NVIDIA, AMD, or Apple? Intel is different because they are historically manufacturing their own chips. Now, it has changed a little bit recently, but Intel has their own fabs when they make their own, chips out of sand. They've got some in Israel, and they're trying to build some in the US, and I believe somewhere in the Europe. But that is different because NVIDIA doesn't make their own chips. They buy them from TSMC. AMD doesn't make their own chips. They buy them from TSMC. Apple doesn't make their own chips. They buy them from TSMC. And right now, even Intel is buying their chips not from their fabs or what they're manufacturing, but from TSMC, which is a little bit of a shame, which means there is one company that has a huge market share and a lot of influence, which means prices are going like this, and you and me are paying the price. Why we need Intel to succeed is they need to catch up with their process nodes, their actual chips, so that when they produce the chips, they don't have to use competitors' chips, they're actually using their own. Right now, if you look at Intel Arc page, you can see that the Core Ultra 200S series, for example, they've kind of moved that line further down, but the chips are coming from TSMC, not from Intel anymore. And it's the same with this Intel Arc. They're coming from TSMC, which is a bit of a shame. Now, Intel has fallen behind because they've tried to build their own fabs, but that has taken years and years, and it's a massive process because when building a fab, you actually have to kind of manufacture your own robots that make the product that you actually want, which is very, very insane. And if I'm not mistaken, even TSMC is getting some of the equipment from Intel to produce their own chips at TSMC. But Intel's chips aren't good enough right now, and that's why they have to resort to getting them in from TSMC, because they're just better. But now some of the reasons why Intel can't fall behind, especially as a creator. Intel has technology that nobody else has. For example, the media engines that Intel has, they're the best on the market. Better than Apple, better than NVIDIA, better than anything out there. Now, we all know NVIDIA encoders, but Intel has the largest hardware codec support for their media engines, and they're even now updating it to even more codecs, whereas AMD and NVIDIA are falling behind. So if you want the best live playback of your codec, we're not talking about exporting video and actually putting it together, but decoding of footage, Intel is the best out there. The media engines and Intel QuickSync technology, there's nothing like that out there. Another reason is we need the CPU and GPU competition. If you didn't get this already, we need there to be more competitors in the GPU and CPU market, because if it comes very one-sided or one company starts to dominate, the prices are going high, and we all know the GPU issues that we've had with NVIDIA. The prices are going higher, and we are going to be the ones who are paying the high price. I would like to get more for my money. I'm not sure if you're on the same page. That's why we need Intel to succeed in the GPU and CPU adventures. Next, right now, most of the chips are made in Asia, and for US and for Western world, this is not really the best idea politically. If you know the tension Taiwan has with China just because TSMC is in Taiwan, it's insane, because China obviously wants that business, they want that, which creates huge tension there in Taiwan. If something was to happen in Taiwan, a lot of the Western world will go on a halt, because you can't get any more new iPhones, you can't get GPUs, CPUs, nothing. It is very, very one-sided and dangerous. So we need more chip manufacturers in the US, in Europe, to make it not so Asia dependent, and politically that will be so much better for the Western world. Now, I know that Samsung in South Korea is also manufacturing chips, but still they're not as good, because if they were, AMD, Nvidia, Apple would go to Samsung, but they don't. Now, in conclusion, I don't want you to think that I'm going to be easy on Intel. Now, do I want Intel to succeed? Yes, I absolutely do, as much as AMD and Nvidia and others, because that will be better for us. Right now, Intel's the underdog, and they're going to have to absolutely do a miracle to survive, and I want them to survive, but I'm not going to be easy on them. Intel needs to innovate, because their company culture has become very old-fashioned. They need to innovate. They need to have some people in there to lead with vision. You can't have two CEOs. It's never going to work. I'm sorry. Two kingdoms in fight with each other are never going to survive. You need to have unified vision. You need to have someone to lead Intel's company and change the company culture. They can't just sit back and think, yeah, another 14 plus architecture that we can put on the... No, you can't do that. You need to innovate like you did with the 12th gen and hybrid architecture. You need to take it further. You need to make it more efficient. It needs to keep up with AMD and others. And that's what I'm expecting from Intel. So Intel, I am cheering for you, but you've got to pull yourself together and you got to work this out.